This is Call on the Field Stands. Ryan Denchef and myself, Jeff Mapis, ready to get back into it. Got some MLB Hall of Fame discussion to get into, recap the NFL Championship weekend briefly, and finally get into some NBA talk. Been going on for quite some time, and we haven't really touched on NBA that much.
Yeah, we've been neglecting it. Been pretty consumed with NFL, like I think most people, especially this season. But yeah, it's almost like once the NBA or the NFL season ends, that's when I like kind of dive full head into NBA. It's kind of like put on the back burner because the first half of the season is so boring anyways.
It's meaningless.
You got a million teams make the playoffs, and nobody with any relevant chance of winning the championship has any significant games in the regular season pretty much until the end when they're trying to fight like second seed or third seed or first seed or fourth seed. Like
right.
First half, they should probably just slop off like the first 25 games of the season and then just start it.
They easily could.
So, anyways, excited to get into this MLB Hall of Fame discussion. Today is Wednesday, which means the announcements for the Hall of Fame came out yesterday, the 20th, 21st. I can't get my days correct. What the hell? Anyways, so we got Derek Jeter, Larry Walker into the Hall of Fame, and that is it. Leaving off notable names such as Barry Bonds once again and Roger Clemens. Curt Schilling actually got the third highest, if memory serves, from the list.
Yes. He just missed it.
Yeah.
Just
what do you need? 75%. He got 70.
He got 70.
So, yeah, let's just get into that conversation because there's a lot to be said, a lot of discussions and storylines to be had. First being Derek Jeter gets first ballot Hall of Fame and misses a unanimous, the second unanimous of all time behind Mariano Rivera, who got it last year by one whole voter. Didn't vote Derek Jeter. What says you about that, Jeffrey? Everybody's all up in arms, like, what kind of idiot doesn't vote for Derek Jeter, etc. I don't know. What do you think? Your first reaction, because I got some comments.
It's, one, if Ken Griffey Jr. doesn't get unanimous, then fucking no one does. So I'll just lead with that. But it's what sums up Hall of Fame voting to me is this is the 10th time Larry Walker has been on the ballot, and he gets in, okay? Derek Jeter gets in almost one vote shy of being unanimous. And if you look at their numbers, they're pretty damn similar.
Yeah. I mean, you could be misled by some of the numbers. But see, all right, so
you can be.
Part of the bullshit thing that doesn't make sense to me is like, okay, I think a big part of why Larry Walker got into the Hall of Fame this year was because it was his last year. You know what I'm saying? So people are going to be like, oh, we're going to vote for him to make sure he gets in because we don't want him. I mean, he was still got in. They have that basically like, I forget how they do it, but it's almost like a veteran's appointment to the Hall of Fame. So he still would have got in, I'm sure. His stats are good enough, I would say, probably to get into the Hall of Fame. It's not that important. Like, you don't have to be the greatest baseball player of all time. Like, there's a lot of marginal guys who make the Hall of Fame, and that's fine.
And I'm more so saying, like, he's got an MVP. He's got 7 Gold Gloves. He was a batting title champ 3 times, 3-time Silver Slugger Award winner. I mean, he's got some clout, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
For sure. And one of those, more recognizable guys in his era when he was playing, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But part of it is like, okay, the whole first ballot, unanimous, let me get him in on his last ballot. Like, it's all bullshit. Either they're a Hall of Famer or they're not a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. So why guys are like, oh, well, I'm not going to vote for so-and-so because it's his first time and, first ballot Hall of Famer. That's a whole other, level echelon of guys that are more deserving than others to get first ballot. We'll just get him next year. Like, what the fuck? Either he's a Hall of Famer in your eyes or he is not a Hall of Famer in your eyes. And what over the course of 10 years was a voter saying like, oh, 8 years ago, not a Hall of Famer. All of a sudden, 8 years later, oh yeah, he could be in the Hall of Fame. Like,
that makes no sense.
There's not that much turnover of voters that are just swinging these elections of who gets into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And same thing with like the Jeter thing. Like, okay, is he worthy of a unanimous? Is there other guys like you mentioned, like Ken Griffey Jr. is like one that comes to mind who got missed by like 2 or 3 or something like that. Like other guys, obviously, who deserve it more so than like getting that unanimous than Jeter maybe. But like, who fucking cares? Everybody knows he's a Hall of Famer. Everybody knows he's deserving. Why does it matter? Like, and why is that one guy not voting for him just for the statement of, oh, I'm not going to
Yeah,
vote
the
for him.
one guy. I mean,
But
it's
just
silly.
Like
It's silly.
him as an example because he missed it by one. But like, there's plenty of guys like he's a Hall of Famer. Who the fuck cares if he's unanimous on his first ballot or he gets in on his third ballot? Like he's either a Hall of Famer or he's not, and it shouldn't be very difficult to vote on these for a lot of these guys. So I don't understand what the fuck changes over the course of a few years where all of a sudden, oh, these guys, they got to get in. Oh, got to squeeze in Larry Walker. But to go back on your point real quick, you mentioned like their stats are similar. You know, you can see stuff on Twitter and things like that kind of point like, oh, look at these 6 stats that I choose that are comparable. Like Derek Jeter arguably has the greatest postseason resume in the history of MLB players. Just trying to pull this up real quick. Obviously he's played more games basically than anybody else, and gotten more opportunities, but he leads the MLB history in hits by almost double. Bernie Williams, number 2 with 128. Derek Jeter, 200 postseason hits, like almost twice as many as the second guy. The most doubles. He's top 3 in home runs, 9 behind Manny, 2 behind Bernie Williams in career postseason home runs. Like all these stats, he's in the top 10 in pretty much every legit statistical category. Yes, he's played more games. Yes, he got an opportunity to play on some stacked ass teams and get there more than anybody else. But you can't just overlook those fucking numbers. Like those are insane numbers.
If you show up when it matters, I mean, that's why
Mr. November was not.
That's why
even nickname.
I hold Big Papi in high regards because I mean he showed up in the playoffs time and time again. My point with the stats being comparable, understanding that Derek Jeter's postseason performances have some clout as well, is just the whole silly thing that you had just gone on about is Larry Walker is getting in on like the last attempt he can get in. Jeter's getting in the first time, 1 vote shy of being unanimous. It's just kind of like you're either a Hall of Famer or you're not. So why are we
like? And I get like there's the borderline guys. You obviously as a voter you only get 10 votes. So sometimes I understand like, okay, am I going to put this guy on? Maybe not because I want to use my vote for this guy. But there's guys who are given like, only so many votes, like only that might vote for 1 guy or 3 guys. Like they're not obligated to vote 10 guys. So the whole thing comes into play again. Like, oh, I'm not going to vote for him this year. Maybe next year I'll put him on my ballot. Like what the fuck? Either, like you said, he either is or he isn't. So the whole conversation that's going around like, oh, he missed it by 1 vote. Oh, this Larry Walker just barely got in. Like who fucking cares? Hall of Famers are Hall of Famers. Yeah. And we still got like the second point of it. Why the fuck is Barry Bonds not in the Hall of Fame? Like we need to get over this old white man status of reporters who are not voting Barry Bonds because, oh, he probably did juice and his stats are inflated and he shouldn't be in. Greatest player of all time.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about stats being inflated. Slice off over 200 of his home runs. I don't give a fuck. He's still the only member of the 500 club.
Yeah.
Get him in.
Yeah, and I've made this point too. Like you can read different things that basically say, Barry Bonds probably did steroids in year X. And I think it was around 1998. If you take his year X, which like I said is about 98, whatever it is, you can look it up in the article. I'll have to find it somewhere. So where this reputable source says, yeah, he probably started in this year. If you take that year and beyond the rest of his career and just take it off of his resume, he's still, in my opinion, a Hall of Famer. So what are we talking about? And he is the greatest statistical player, home runs, steals. I mean, it's just, he's the best player of all time, in my opinion. So the fact that you don't have him on because guys don't want to vote for him, like, get off your high horse there, buddy. You're a fucking reporter who writes about the league. Like, who says you know anything better than anybody else? Like, put the greatest player of all time in. Pete Rose, put fucking the all-time hits leader in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. No, dude, 4,000 hits. Come on. Get him in. Barry Bonds is also the only member of the 400 club. So you can slash off another 100 homers, and he's still the only member of the 400 club.
Insane. That's insane. And, you got Roger Clemens, the same thing, one of the best pitchers of all time, getting left off of ballots, 40% of ballots, because people think he did roids and he doesn't get in because he doesn't deserve it because he did roids. Like, what the fuck? Everybody did roids in anyways. What are we talking about?
And out of all of the players on the ballot this year, those two players have, by a wide margin, the highest wins above replacement. So it's like, it's so clear to everyone that they should be in the Hall of Fame except the actual voters.
They'll get in. I'm not sure. So I think you get allowed 10 years, which Roger and Barry and Curt Schilling.
8th.
What?
This was their 8th time.
Oh, gotcha. So they've got 2 more opportunities until, like I said, you maybe get that backdoor action. But, one would assume once all these old-ass dudes kind of get out of the way, they'll get voted in. I don't know if there's enough time anymore. They might have to just wait till they maybe get appointed in. That maybe they'll never get in. Who knows?
Who knows?
Interesting. But, if you take away, Schilling, Clemens, and Bonds, the next highest guy on the list by a wide margin, 5th overall on this past year's list of vote getters, isn't even close to. The 4th is Omar Vizquel, which interesting conversation can be had. Obviously, we're both Indians fans, grew up watching Omar, one of our guys that I'm sure we both looked up to as kids, winning 11 gold gloves and 9 of them or something like that in Cleveland. So what are your thoughts on Omar? The biggest comparison I have is when you look statistical, I'll let you jump in on this point as I pull up the stats, but the Ozzie Smith comparison with Omar, I think, is pretty alarming and obvious. But, what's your reaction to Omar, who also made a significant jump from 42.8% a year ago up to 52.6% this year, slowly but surely climbing, and you get over that 50% mark, you're on your way. And next year, we've got pretty much nobody coming in on the ballot. In addition, I think Tim Hudson and Mark Burley are the only 2 names that will get even 8% vote or anything like that, and they're not going to be in Hall of Fame ever in their lives. So next year's probably the year, because there's really going to be nobody else to vote for except for Clemens and Bonds and Schilling. But I think he probably, if he doesn't get in next year, he's going to be pretty damn close, and I think so he's deserving. What are your thoughts on Omar? Bias aside or bias in, who cares?
It's hard to put bias aside with Omar because when I just remember as a kid, baseball was easily my favorite sport to follow. Like nothing even came close. Things have changed now, but especially following the Indians and watching. It was a short stint with Omar and Roberto Alomar up the middle, but my God, we had the best middle infield in the game. And it was
up there in history, bro.
Yeah, it was a blast to watch. And it's crazy that Omar consistently did it even after he left Cleveland and then toward the back end of his career. So 11 gold gloves. I mean, you've got some advanced stats you're going to lay out there, especially with that Ozzie.
How advanced they're going to
especially with that Ozzie comparison.
Bro, this dude won a gold glove when he was 39 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
As a shortstop. Like, what are we talking about?
When I think about Hall of Fame, I want to think about special categories. When you think about Omar Vizquel, he's going to go down as one of, top 5, maybe even the greatest fielder in general of all time. So to me, that's Hall of Fame worthy. It's a big part of the game. Doesn't make many errors, makes special plays, routine plays. I mean, he makes it look easy. 11 gold gloves to go on top of it. I think he's in the Hall of Fame. I would definitely vote him. I'm not going to put my bias aside because it's too hard with him.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not even really biased. Kind of what you just mentioned, like special talents who are, standout guys. And I think he's up there. Even if you aren't an Indians fan, I think that gets recognized, pretty clearly. So, these quick stats. And to point out, so Ozzie Smith, also, I'm not saying Ozzie Smith doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I think he does. He easily deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But Ozzie Smith was a first ballot Hall of Famer. You go back to that whole conversation with 91.7% of all votes in his first season eligible for the Hall of Fame. He got first ballot Hall of Famer. When you look at his stats, Omar got 37% a couple years ago. Like I said, bumped up to 42 or 43-ish, and now up to about 43. But when you look at these quick stats, like I said, not advanced, but pretty straightforward stats. Ozzie Smith versus Omar. Ozzie Smith had 28 home runs in his career. Omar 80. 793 ribs versus 951 for Omar. Their career batting averages, Ozzie was 262 with 2,460 hits. and Omar was 272 with 2,877 hits, and 500 to 613 extra base hits. So over 100 more extra base hits. Omar's got 200 about more runs, and this is an interesting stat: 281 career errors in 2,500 games for Ozzy, and 183 errors in 2,700 games for Omar. So he's got 100 less errors in 200 more games. So you look at those stats, all of those, like I said, you can find stats that kind of point one direction. But like I said, both Hall of Fame careers, but it's just odd that Ozzy gets 92% votes and Omar in his third season eligible barely gets 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was more popular in the national media, you got Ozzy iconically doing backflips on the field. What is Omar iconically doing other than winning 11 Gold Gloves? Like,
yeah,
that's why Derek Jeter got almost every single vote possible. Is because he's a New York Yankee and the New York Yankee of our generation and of many people's generations, dating back to, I don't even know, Reggie Jackson, something like that.
Yeah.
So the popularity makes a difference when you have writers who are just as biased as anybody else. They're basically just glorified fans who get paid to be professional journalists in many senses. And they're deciding, based on their popularity, bias, and beliefs, of who gets into the Hall of Fame. It's kind of skewed. It's kind of bullshit. Hopefully Omar gets in, or that'll be one of the all-time snubs, in my opinion. It's just weird when you look at stats and you look at guys who deserve it and who... I mean, like I said, Ozzy deserves it, of course.
No, there's no doubt
but
about it.
How Omar gets left off is wild to me. So, I don't know. He better get in very soon, or it's just going to be weird.
I agree with you. He could definitely be getting in next year. Which would be pretty cool because we got to see Jim Thome get in.
Yeah.
Next would be
for sure.
Omar Vizquel.
Need to get
hopefully.
Manny in there too, but with the same kind of arguments with Barry. Who knows? And also 400 on top of all those stats for Omar, he also had 400 stolen bases.
Yes, that was the one I
Ozzy
wanted
had
to
over
mention.
500 stolen bases, which that's also another
Legit.
reason why he almost had 600 extra, 580 stolen bases. Like I said, another reason that Ozzy is very deserving. I'm not going to say he's not, but that 400 plus for Omar, just another statistic that shows like how is this dude not in?
Yeah.
Especially when he's arguably the greatest defensive shortstop of all time. So, I don't know. He better get in.
Yeah, he better get in.
It's crazy. But, yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's anything else that stood out so far as the Hall of Fame results over this past week. What do you think?
Just to hammer on the voting, like who the fuck is voting for Adam Dunn to go into the Hall of Fame?
Right.
Why does he have a vote? Like, is that just a sign of... Is that like Dan Le Batard throwing his vote? I think he already got stripped of it, but someone like him throwing his vote away or something like that
Just to
prove
be
a point.
Yeah.
Eric Chavez is getting 2 votes. Eric Chavez doesn't even belong on this
Cliff
ballot.
Lee's getting 2 votes. Get the fuck
out
of here.
Come on. Yeah, Raul Ibanez,
Jason Giambi with 6, Alfonso.
I mean,
Soriano with
even
6.
Jeff Kent and Andrew Jones, who are getting somewhat of a decent chunk. Like
Jeff Kent, 28%.
I view those guys as really good baseball players in the generation we grew up watching, but Hall of Fame worthy?
Right.
Oh, come on. Not even gonna waste my time voting for them.
Right.
Now
you get 10 votes and you vote for fucking Adam Dunn, which I almost guarantee whoever voted for Adam Dunn didn't vote for Barry Bonds. Almost guarantee.
That blows my mind. But you got guys on there like
it should be public ballots, by the way.
It
Every
absolutely
fucking
should
ballot
be.
should be public.
It
A lot
should
of them
be.
now are going to Twitter and like posting their ballots, but it should be fucking across
Not
the board.
enough of them.
Right.
But you got a guy like Gary Sheffield, who I kind of view as like he'd be a fringe Hall of Famer for me, but the fact that he had 555 dingers kind of, makes me want to put him in. That's kind of a special group in the history of the major league. Only like 32 players have over 500 home runs.
Yeah.
The other guy is Manny Ramirez. I mean, he was a hitting machine. I mean, he was known
One of
as
the greatest hitters we've
one
ever
of the
seen.
greatest. Yeah. Just pure hitting. He's one of the best. Like, I don't know. Those are 2 guys that I'd probably vote for next year along with Omar. Maybe Billy Wagner, just looking at who's still on the
list.
and then obviously Barry Bonds is getting in.
Yeah,
Curt Schilling.
That's the thing. Like, there's a lot of fringe guys. I get that. Maybe vote for him, maybe not. But some are obvious, and others, like a lot of these fringe guys, if they get into the Hall of Fame, good for them. Who fucking cares? Like,
Yeah.
it impacts nothing. No, it doesn't degrade the Hall of Fame. Oh, we can't put Barry Bonds in. That means anybody. He's a asterisk to the game of baseball. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
I bet they vote for Jose Altuve in about 40 years too, don't they?
Yeah.
Cocksuckers.
Yeah, I'd like to see it not get watered down. Like even Larry Walker could be a fringe guy for me too. Not going to disagree with him getting in per se, but it's like, I would say similar to who he was in the game, and his numbers would be like a minimum threshold, if you will, almost. Like, are we really gonna go lower than Larry Walker and vote people in? But that's just my opinion on keeping the Hall of Fame somewhat special.
Word.
But yeah, voting for guys like Raul Ibanez, I just don't understand that.
Raul Ibanez.
So we'll see what happens next year on the ballot. It was exciting to see Jim Thome, like I said, get into the Hall of Fame, and Chipper Jones. I grew up being fond of the Braves as well, and Chipper was one of my favorite players just because he played third base. He's one of the best power hitting switch hitters of all time, and I just always liked the guy. So that was cool to see them get into the Hall. And then, this year, Derek Jeter,
that'd be cool too, man. Well, I always hated the Yankees. Don't get me wrong, but I always respected Derek Jeter. I always liked Jeter for whatever reason.
Yeah. He's a Michigan guy, so I like him.
He's just like the pro's pro, like the guy who did nothing wrong.
I mean, to be the face of the New York Yankees in the era we grew up in is pretty special.
Never had controversy, never said anything bad, never did anything in front of the cameras that was like questionable. No one knows anything about it. He's like a mystery man who's just really fucking good at baseball and is like the perfect baseball guy to look up to. Just have Andy, he played for the most popular team of all time.
Right.
It's like, I always liked him. So it's going to be kind of cool seeing a guy who like we grew up watching, like kind of some of those guys that you mentioned. Another one of those guys, like, we're getting old is basically.
I was just going to say that. It's starting to make me feel old looking at these Hall of Fame ballots, past couple of years and moving forward now. Obviously, these are the baseball superstars that we grew up watching, man.
Yeah.
It's
next year, another guy who I failed to mention, Torrey Hunter is going to be on his first time on a Hall of Fame ballot next year. Like, Torrey Hunter's been out of the game long enough that he's on a fucking Hall of Fame ballot. Like, dude, we're getting old.
We were just saying A-Rod is soon to be on the ballot.
I was surprised he's only out of the league since his last year being 2016. That's pretty wild. I've
seen longer than that.
Right. It's crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, just these... I mean, you've played with every single one of these guys on video games growing up, and they're getting votes into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
it's just crazy. So that's that with MLB this week. We hit on the cheating scandal a little bit last week. Not too much more has come out about it.
Outside of a story that came out that I saw today. Did it come out today, or did I just see it today? Talking about essentially the commissioner and the key execs in Major League Baseball basically gave immunity to all players who who basically gave information about what happened, essentially saying, after, it was kind of third party, I don't think they ever said it, and Manfred said it, but basically saying that they didn't think they could have ever gotten away with suspending them because of the union and the Players Association, all that kind of stuff. So they just decided not to do anything, give them immunity, get all the information out as possible, and put a stop to it. Which it's fucking insane that Rob Manfred even has a job as commissioner. When another part of the story goes on to say he told all GMs, and Lou now, GM of the Astros at the time, decides not to tell the players and relay the message that. Which, who knows if that's fucking true? That could be a bunch of horseshit, whether or not they got told or knew. It's like they didn't know that what they were doing was wrong. They just didn't know they got caught and continued to do it. Basically give a fucking middle finger to the MLB, like, fuck you. How he still has a job as commissioner is beyond me. But like you said, we did get into it. Unless you have kind of, what's your quick thoughts?
Just the article we're talking about is from Wall Street Journal, and it's by Jared Diamond. It came out this morning. It's interesting. Might piss you off if you're already on that side of the fence about this whole ordeal. My only closing thought here is if this whole buzzer thing is ever proven, have no idea if it will be. It might not get proven at all. To me, that's a lifetime ban. I mean, that's like, it's one thing to steal signs, but to go at length to cheat like that for the signal that to know that an off-speed pitch is coming is pretty absurd to me.
Yeah. I mean, they were talking about the coaches for the Red Sox were wearing smartwatches and getting notifications on their smartwatch in the dugouts. So
it was all elaborate, man.
Right.
I mean, it's sounding like it was a very elaborate, well thought and executed plan, and it yielded a championship for him and almost got him a second one this past season.
Yeah. And I mean, that's another thing too. Like, if it's true, like who knows, it's probably bullshit. Like the GM got notified by the MLB, but decided not to tell anybody, not to tell the players that they got this memo from the MLB saying, like, if that's true, which is probably bullshit. I'm sure the players fucking knew what was going on. They were just covering their asses because they can we have plausible deniability because we didn't know we got caught, basically, is what they're basically saying. But how does Luhnow and Hinch, if that's true, they got notified and neglected to tell the team and do anything about it after getting notified, you have to stop this, and they just continue to do it? How is that not a lifetime ban right there? They got 1 year suspension from the league.
Right.
Like, that should be a lifetime ban. If they got told, stop doing this because we know you're doing it, not sure that we could prove it yet, but we know it's happening, stop doing it. And they just say, okay, wink, wink, I'm just not going to tell anybody about it. Plausible deniability for my entire organization. Like, they should get a lifetime ban. But odds are they fucking know that everybody knew, and now they can't suspend anybody. That's another thing they said. Oh, we can't suspend any players because we can't just have only Astros players. You know, Marwin Gonzalez gets signed by another team. Can't suspend him because that hurts the other team. Like, suck my cock. That's bullshit, dude. If you were fucking involved, you should be suspended for multiple seasons, at least a season minimum. Minimum.
My thing is, okay, you're not going down the route of issuing punishment to the players.
I don't understand.
No, a postseason ban would punish the players too, in a sense. Like, I can't believe they didn't at least get a postseason ban.
Right. Okay. You can't take their salaries away because of the MLBPA, or however you say it, the players' agreement, the collective bargaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can't suspend them. You know, they wouldn't hold up in court or whatever. They'll, sue us and fight back, and their union will hold strong and they'll keep their salaries. Postseason ban is a perfect solution then.
Yeah.
Punish the organization. Okay, you can't do anything about the players, but, you can suspend them from action. Can't suspend them from, getting their salaries.
I think it would be, even if it wouldn't hold up legally, I think it'd still be worth sending the message that they are going to try to go down that route. But to kind of wrap things up, you're going to see their players get beamed. I guarantee it.
I can't wait.
Pitchers are already...
I can't wait for Mike Clevenger to face
Trevor Bauer, who's the pitcher from the Dodgers that said he would rather face someone on steroids than
Alex Wood.
Alex Wood. Mm-hmm. He comes out and says he'd rather play someone on steroids than someone that knows, like, when he's going to throw an off-speed pitch versus...
Dude, that's the thing. Like, you have I want to say brotherhood, but you're all in the same union. You all play the same game. You've got guys, and Mike Clevenger kind of said this, he summarized this well, and you're seeing a lot of position players as well, not just pitchers coming out and saying how bullshit this whole thing is. You've got guys who are fighting for their lives and livelihoods every single time they step on the field, and the guy next to them, and whether it's, someone in the organization, somebody in another organization, to have an unfair advantage on another team that you're at times facing and otherwise, that is, how fucking horrible would you feel, like, working your ass off to get through the minors, get a salary, get a long-term career, and get paid, and the guy across the field is just fucking cheating and getting whatever
blatantly.
You know what I mean? Like, the whole game is getting influenced by what they did in the negative, and nothing's happening to them. There's nothing being done. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm.
It blows my mind. I don't know. Like, I don't know if there's anything that can be done at this point or will be done, but especially from the players' perspective, like, what do they do?
More stuff could be. More stuff could come out. I mean, who knows?
Like, this is the most incredible thing I can remember in sports controversy in my lifetime. Like, this is worse than the whole Balco Mitchell report steroid situation from a few years back.
Mike, that thing just drug out way too long. The whole
Right, that's probably,
steroid
I think they
era
mentioned in that
and the
article, like
reports.
part of the reason why they probably wanted to get the players on board to get the report out quickly is because how long it took last time and the whole thing, it got swept away. You know.
Well, MLB better be careful on how they handle things, especially if, hey, maybe there's a white hat in the Astros organization that comes forward and goes to The Athletic or some publishing company and says, hey, I'm ready to come clean. This is everything that happened. Who knows? I kind of hope that happens, and it just gets real nasty. Dirty.
I mean, how much more would come out at this point, though, that hasn't? Like, what would be
to have
withheld?
actual proof? Like, if he has actual proof or evidence of going to the extent of using buzzers.
Well, the buzzers thing, yeah, I guess that could be part of a next thing that could come out. But if that never happened, the banging on the trash cans was pretty effective, apparently.
Yeah, no, it was.
I mean, they probably didn't wear buzzers. Who knows? As you probably hear my dogs barking in the upstairs. But I don't know what else could happen so far as that's concerned. But like you said, hopefully something does. Something needs to happen to get the players on the hook for at least something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
No, it would take something like I described to be able to allow the MLB to actually come down again after the article we read today. If they're saying their hands are going to be tied with their agreement up front, so. But anywho, we digress. If more comes out, we'll very passionate about this topic.
Yes.
We'll discuss it further. But had a huge weekend on Sunday, NFL Championship weekend, and we'll start with the first game that transpired. The Cinderella story, if you will, comes to an end. The Kansas City Chiefs taking down the Tennessee Titans. Something we both predicted.
Yeah, not too surprised. I think a lot of people were, none too surprised.
No.
What was it? I got to pull this up because it was crazy what I saw, and I'm hoping this is the same game that I'm mentioning, or else the whole comment that I'm making right now makes no sense. But yeah, just the one thing that stood out as I try to pull this up is they just stopped giving the ball to Derrick Henry. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck were they doing? Like, they gave it, I think I counted 3 rushing attempts in the second half for a total of 7 yards for Derrick Henry, who ended with 19 carries and 69 yards. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, 19 carries that's a decent load.
Bro, he got a combined like 60 something the first 2 games. Like, you got to give the man the rock. Ride or die with Derrick Henry. You cannot put the game in Ryan Tannehill's hands. He threw the ball this season. I looked more than 30 or more times, 4 times all season. They were 1-3 in them games.
To be honest, though, the Chiefs were they were effective at stopping the run when they went to it. And then in the fourth quarter, you had the Chiefs explosion.
And then they kind of got out of hand. The score got out of hand, so they kind of had to pass in the second half.
Yeah, both teams put up goose eggs in the third quarter. Then in the fourth quarter, Kansas City scores 14 points, and Tennessee got that touchdown late to put 7 on the board in that quarter. But when they went up 14 more points after half, it was kind of like, ew.
Yeah.
Now we got to throw. Can we do this consistently?
Yeah, and that's kind of what we both I think mentioned last week. Like, the keys to win is slow down Derrick Henry, force Ryan Tannehill to throw the ball, and you'll win the game. Force him to throw more than 23 times, you're going to win. He threw 30-ish times or whatever it was.
Ooh, that's not good if you're the Titans.
Like I said, he threw 30 or more passes 4 times, lost all but one of those games, including the loss he had last week. So yeah, here's what I was looking up. So I was watching a pre-show on ESPN, I guess it was. Getting ready for the game to start. Teddy Bruschi, Rex Ryan, Randy Moss, and Matt Hasselbeck are with Sam Ponder.
Oh, yeah.
All them cats except Sam Ponder picked the Titans to win.
That was
Sam
crazy.
Ponder picked the Chiefs. She's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, Chiefs are going to win. What are we talking about? And I was like, what? Like, what am I missing something here?
I saw that graphic.
Oh, did they make a graphic about it? I texted my buddy. I'm like, dude, you'll never believe this. But
yeah. No, so I mean, dude, with social media, all that shit gets posted to Twitter.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but I was like, what the fuck? Titans. I'm like,
no.
What are we talking about? They're not even gonna fucking cover the spread. And sure enough, they didn't. But yeah,
Patrick Mahomes went off.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes things. And like I said, the Titans, I think, had little chance to win that game anyways. And they had to just run the shit out of Derrick Henry, ride or die. Like, either he's going to win them the game or not. And I thought, if they go down, they have to continue to stay with their identity and keep giving Henry the rock, even if they're down, because that's their only chance. Like, you can be down by 2 scores, and if you start passing, the game's over. You might be able to get back into it if Derrick Henry starts going off. That's your only option. And they took that option away by giving him the ball 3 times in the second half. Like, yeah, they were down, but you're not going to come back with fucking Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
no, not being able to score right out of halftime in the third quarter pretty much killed them, because as you saw in many games, the Chiefs offense can explode at any given point in the game. Like, it does not matter if they're down 3 touchdowns or what. I mean, they can light it up when they get going. So, it went as expected.
I didn't have to sweat one of my prop bets. I bet Henry and Tyreek Hill would both score touchdowns.
There you go.
I covered that pretty easily in the first half. So that was nice.
Yeah.
But it was a cool game. It was fun, enjoyable. Much more so than the second game.
Yeah.
That's for
sure. The second game, I looked like a fool with my pick and what I said was going to happen.
Yeah. I thought the game would be close too, even though I had I picked the 49ers, but it was just an abysmal performance by the Packers.
I even said it was going to come down to plays by Jimmy G there at the end, and the dude only had to throw 8 times.
6 for 8. And
6 completions, bro. It's crazy.
And won a conference championship game.
San Fran came out and whooped the shit out of Green Bay. I mean, that was an embarrassing performance for the Green Bay Packers. My God.
Yes, their defense was completely and absolutely atrocious. Like, okay, Raheem Mostert, let's give the man some credit. Dude put up 200 plus and 4 tuds in an NFC championship game. I'll give him credit where credit is due. But everybody talking about how all these teams cut him and never gave him a chance, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, bro, Nick Chubb would have put up 300 plus with that team last week. Like, I watched all the replay, like the film of every run that Mostert did, and he made some plays, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure all 4 of his touchdowns, he had 0 contact made on every single one, completely untouched to the house. And multiple times he's gaining 30 yards downfield without getting touched. Their defense was abysmal, bro. The defensive line, especially the ends, consistently took themselves completely out of the plays. I don't know what the fuck they were doing. They were like not wanting to make contact with the blocking and just basically falling to the ground, or just rushing for a potential play action that never existed. Like, they were completely taking themselves out of the game. Darnell Savage had one of the worst performances I've ever seen. Like, dude was out of position, over pursuing, terrible pursuit routes, abandoning his outside contain constantly.
We were
like, he's a rookie. I'll give him, the benefit of the doubt. He had a bad game, but wow. Yeah. That was bad, bro.
I mean, we were just talking about how Aaron Rodgers finally has an improved defense, which he did. They did.
I got fooled by that. I got fooled by their defense, especially early in the year. They were performing, and that's kind of when I was paying more attention. I had a couple primetime games early in the season. I got fooled by the Packers, D. I thought they were a lot better than they were. Their pass rush is pretty solid. Their run defense is bad.
Particularly, so I did some
pair it with
reading.
Shanahan's scheme.
Yeah, paired with
Shanahan,
it just, in hindsight, probably should have seen that coming. But even so, you're talking about Green Bay's defense and how they got sliced, which they did. But my God, they came back out in the field like after these short drives from the Packers offense that sputtered the entire first half, and it's like, Green Bay, you got to put some pressure on San Fran's offense by putting some damn points on the board.
And forcing the ball into Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. Much
big
like
old
the whole
goose egg
Ryan
in the
Tannehill
first half, bro.
Right.
27-0. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, it was bad. The whole secondary, like I said, and not just Savage, but Will Redmond and Alexander. How do you say his first name? Is it Jair or
Jair, yeah.
Jair Alexander. Like I said, young guys. Especially Savage's rookie is if my memory serves, but they were just bad, just taking themselves out of position, not getting downfield and making contact, missing tackles, trying to arm tackle downfield. There was a couple times, I think it was Savage, one of them, if he doesn't barely get an arm around and Mostert fall to the ground, dude, he would have had 6 touchdowns. And that's one of those things when I was talking about how Nick Chubb probably would have put up 300. there was a couple plays where I was like, there is 0% chance Nick Chubb does not house that, and Mostert got like 35 yards or something.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's getting housed by Nick Chubb. For sure. That zone read that Shanahan runs is it was unstoppable.
Yeah.
It was unstoppable.
No, he's clearly showing that, and he has in the past, that he's an offensive guru. And when you pair it with how they've constructed that team, they have good tight ends too that can block. And listening to Shanahan speak about the offense and how sometimes it benefits him when defenses stack the box and they run into it with their zone blocking. It's just cool I respect Shanahan, so I think it's kind of cool to see the 49ers performing like they are. I mean, they field an awesome defensive line. Nick Bosa is a goddamn maniac.
He is.
And they line up on the offensive side of the ball and pretty much dictate what they're going to do to you. And it's setting up to be a pretty exciting Super Bowl matchup. We both agreed last podcast that Chiefs versus either of these teams, the Packers or the Niners, would make for an exciting Super Bowl. So now we get to see the Chiefs offense versus this 49ers defense, and that matchup I'm excited for.
Yeah, man. It is going to be very interesting. Like, I have no idea or clue which way I want to put my betting money on.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea.
Got another week to decide.
I know. I don't even know if I'm going to put anything. Like, I'm sure I will, but like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, there's so many different angles of what could happen. Like, best offense in the league, best quarterback in the league, weapons for fucking days, looked completely unstoppable in the playoffs, versus the exact opposite in defensive side of the ball playing against him. Like, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs defense has been a lot better, especially late half of the second half of the season.
They don't get spoken about a lot. I think people are realizing it now after this playoff run, but I was talking with a buddy preseason, and I kind of said the same thing, that I just didn't know who the Chiefs really had, if their defense, because they lost a lot from last year, thinking back to this conversation. Then he said, you might want to check their roster again. And then when you looked at their acquisitions and who they have on the field, they got some players on the defensive side of the ball. And Tyrann Mathieu is having a great playoff.
Dude
man.
has been balling.
He is all over the field. I love watching good safeties. Jamal Adams, love watching him play. Tyrann Mathieu is another safety I love watching because, dude, he flies all over the football field.
Yeah, dude. Chris Jones is a beast. Frank Clark has been balling. Like, just talent all across the defense. And it's been a sneakishly good defense. Like, last year, their defense kind of held them back a little bit, even though, I think we kind of mentioned on the podcast, D Ford lines up 6 inches backwards and they're going to the Super Bowl and probably beat the Rams with extreme ease.
It's funny that he's on the Niners now.
Yeah, it is. So, their defense is a lot improved, and they are playing very well, especially in the second half of the season, like I mentioned. And you pair that with their offense, if they could slow down the rush attack that Shanahan is going to put out there with this excellent zone read scheme that he's got going, it could make for an interesting game. Kind of the same thing, like force the ball into Jimmy G's hands, and then you got a good chance to slow down their offense, but easier said than done. But I do think their defense is a lot better than the Packers, and they will play a lot better than the Packers did this past week.
Yeah. No, you're not going to, it's not a true road or home game. You're not going to see a sluggish performance in the Super Bowl from either of these teams. They're both going to bring it. I have full confidence that they're both going to bring the intensity and be ready to play. I definitely don't think the Niners are just going to come out and carve the Chiefs like they did to the Packers. But on the flip side, that Chiefs offense, I know this defense they are playing is going to be the best they've faced all season. However, you've seen Patty Mahomes extend plays and make plays with his arm downfield. And with the speed that the Chiefs have at the skilled positions, they can score at any given point throughout the game, whether they're down or, even if they find themselves behind in the down and distance. Like, Patty Mahomes can make insane plays with his feet and arm. So it's going to be awesome to watch the front of the 49ers get after Patrick Mahomes and what the Chiefs do.
One thing I wanted to go back, what do you think it was that stopped Aaron Rodgers so much? Like, why do you think he struggled so much and that offense struggled so much?
I honestly can't. I need to rewatch it to truly answer the question.
Yeah,
but
it's weird.
Just
it's like nothing really stood out.
They kind of shot themselves in the foot early, if I recall
think it was
correctly.
17-0, and they were driving down the field.
I think
and
Rodgers fumbled a snap that was him that fumbled, I thought.
Yeah, I think that was obviously a big part of it. They go down 17-0, I think, is what the score at the time, and they finally get something going, get down into plus territory into the 49ers side of the field, and he gets strip sacked. I know that derailed, obviously, but like the pressure wasn't like he wasn't running for his life. He wasn't, it was just weird. Like I got to really look back and analyze like what went wrong. Like nothing worked. They really didn't get very many first downs, especially early. He wasn't getting sacked left and right. It wasn't like just overcome with defensive pressure from the get go. It's just weird, and like I'm trying to think.
It's just one of those things. I mean, they
put together
had
a good
their
scheme, I guess.
They had their number that day. I mean, you're also talking about Matt LaFleur. I mean, this is his first time being a head coach and first time through the playoffs, going on the road out to the West Coast, and the 49ers have pretty much the same staff intact from last year. So they're literally coaching the same team they had last year with a few new additions to it. And I think they were ready to come and take it to the Packers. Matt LaFleur in his most recent press conference, I mean, straight up kind of said, calling his players out for coming out and playing sluggish early on and not really having the intensity needed to go out and execute what they tried to put together. And I think he was calling out his players and Mike Pettin out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, their defense obviously shit the bed. And, even if they were able to put something together offensively, the way they were unable to completely stop the run and allow fucking Raheem Mostert go for 220 and 4 touchdowns, like they really had no chance when they performed defensively like that. But it's just weird, like looking like what is going to be different. Obviously, the Chiefs have way more weapons. Obviously, they got Pat Mahomes. And I think Pat Mahomes has leapfrogged Aaron Rodgers as the best quarterback in the league with an argument for Russell Wilson. But in my opinion, Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. And I think that's going to make the difference. And their weapons, obviously, they're going to be able to do so many more things, especially with Tyreek Hill. Move him around a lot. You can put him in the screen game. You give him some fucking jet sweep type situations. We saw him house a couple touchdowns last week. So, like I said, it's something we're really going to be able to dive into in more depth next week. But that was just kind of one thing like stood out. Like there's nothing that really came to mind as like standing out of why the Packers just couldn't do anything offensively. Obviously, the fumble hurt, and then Rodgers threw the pick. But
just their game plan just wasn't there. I mean, the scoring plays that they had in the second half were from freak Aaron Rodgers throws, like literally him throwing off his back foot. I mean, the one, he literally had to jump up in the air and kind of throw the 9 route to Devontae Adams down the sideline. And then another one, I think it was to Jimmy Graham for a touchdown, but I actually saw a breakdown on Twitter. It was cover 3 and they ran seams, and he literally stared to the left side of the field to hold the high safety. And dude, as he's turning, like he didn't even look to see who was open before he threw. He knew. Yeah. Looking to the left, hold him to open up the seam from the slot. He turns and fires all in one motion, and it went for a touchdown. So, I mean, it just what they had was not working.
Yeah, and it's weird because they got first downs on, both of their first 2 drives. So they were like moving the ball a little bit. But then they just didn't really move it enough and get anything going. Like
no, they just didn't have it that day.
Got a couple chunks, 15 here, 20 there. Then they'd stall out punt. Same thing the next drive. And then, obviously the turnovers then happened. Like it just, nothing really came together.
Nothing went right for them.
Nothing came together, and their defense really hurt their chances. They didn't really have much chance. But
no, it was shocking watching the game.
Yeah.
Like
I was ready for like the heater of a game. Like the first game, I was like, okay, let's get through this first game so we can get to the NFC Championship, because it's going to be a fucking awesome game, back and forth, both offenses doing their thing, defenses making plays. Like, it's going to be everything. And then it was nothing of the sort.
No.
So hopefully the Super Bowl is a good one. And I'm looking forward to really diving deep into it next week as we preview the big game.
Absolutely.
Dude, I love the Super Bowl, man.
Yes,
I
it's a
love
great
the Super
weekend.
Bowl. Wake up, it's like, it's fucking Super Bowl Sunday. Like, it's one of my favorite days.
I love it.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue into the NBA. A couple quick topics to talk about. Zion Williamson to make his NBA debut tonight in about an hour or so. That should be interesting. My question is, what is the chances that Zion still wins Rookie of the Year with 50% of the season already cooked in the books? What do you think about his chances?
So I definitely think it's possible that he comes in and wins it. I mean, right now the front runner has to be Ja Morant, right?
Definitely.
I mean, he is making plays lately that kind of wow you. He has the wow factor, averaging 17 a game. I mean, he's pretty much the team for Memphis. So I'd have to give the nod to Ja Morant now. But if even in half a season, if Zion comes back in and totally lights it up from the get-go, I could definitely see him being at least in the discussion for sure.
Yeah.
Down to him and Ja Morant toward the end.
Yeah, like you said, Ja Morant, clear head and shoulders favorite to win it at this point. I mean, RJ Barrett, his stats are okay. 14 a game, 5 boards, 2.5 assists. And he's playing about 32 minutes a game, 31 minutes a game. So, I think he would have to have a monster second half, which just is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be Ja Morant, as long as he does, stays healthy and kind of continues the ball, which, like you said, he's their entire team basically. So one would assume if he stays healthy, he will continue to put up stats. But will Zion be able to step in and basically take over the league like he did in college? Like, that is going to be the big question mark of, will there be an adjustment period? Will he just come in and just dominate? We saw him in the preseason and things like that, do some things. And, I think he's going to come in and make a fucking push for this, for the Rookie of the Year.
I hope he does. I want to see it.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
Exactly. It's going to be tough if Ja ends the season averaging 22 points a game. You're going to have a hard time. He's ran out 22 and 8.5. Like,
and
it'll be tough.
And their team has a playoff slot right as it stands today. So,
well, I mean, one would assume if Zion comes and balls and puts him statistically in the category of in the conversation, the Pelicans are probably going to be making the playoffs or damn close.
Damn close.
And they're damn close right now. If the standings come to my memory, they're
in 12th place right now.
Okay, how many games back are they?
3.5 from last place.
Could he come in, start dominating, and push them over the edge? Definitely, I think that's the case. And I think he's going to make a push because I don't think there's going to be much of a learning curve and a lull in him getting back into it. He's been around the game this entire time. It's not like he's been gone from the NBA. Like, he's been in the facility, he's been at practice, he's been at every game, falling asleep on the court.
Yeah.
So the ins and outs of how the NBA works, and that's a big thing too, like the adjustment period of just being an NBA player, like being in college, you got class, you got practice, you got games. It's just a whole different environment to then going to the NBA, and it's your job to play basketball. Yeah. And that's your career now. So everything is basketball. So he's been around that adjustment. He's been around the adjustment of traveling. He's got that down pat, one would assume. So now he just needs to come in and just play ball. It's time to go play ball. Will he have a hiccup and get into his own head and, overthink things? I don't think so. I think he's a guy who just goes out, has fun playing basketball, loves the game, and just is free playing. And his talent is, there's a reason why he was a number one pick.
He's going to make plays.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about it.
So
I mean, he's going to make plays that wow you. There's no doubt.
Yeah, so I think he's going to step in and just start balling the fuck out from day one, and that's probably going to happen tonight. Well, tonight might be different. We'll see. There might be adjustment period of the team now adjusting to the best player on the court all of a sudden being on their team, like on their side of the ball. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to start forcing him the ball? Are they going to be basically forming the team and the play around him when he hasn't played a game all season? How our defense is going to react to that? Are they going to be doing too much to try to get him involved early on where it kind of hinders his performance and hinders their ability to win games. That's kind of going to be the key difference maker of what happens, especially early on. But talent-wise and his skill and ability, I think he's going to step in and just start making highlight reels. You know what I'm saying?
Because of his athletic ability, he will make the highlight reel. What I'm curious to see is, if he can put up numbers similar to Ja Morant, like we were talking about, just based on his athleticism alone, or is he coming in this year and is gonna be more polished than people think with his actual skill? Like I remember Blake Griffin when he first started, he was looking good, actually putting up really good numbers. And I remember the talk about him was just wait. He's just scratching the surface because he's only doing it off of his athletic ability. Just wait until he develops and refines his skill a little bit more in the NBA. So kind of put Zion in that similar boat. Like he's a freak of nature, size-wise and athleticism. He can handle the ball for being that big. It's crazy. So, just really curious to see, if he's only relying on athleticism at this point, or, he's been injured, so he hasn't been able to work on his game for how long now, like intensely. So,
yeah. I the whole not working on his game intensely, like I don't think it's going to matter much for him just because he's that much of a freak. And it seems everything just comes naturally and easy for him. And by all accounts, like he loves the game to the point where he enjoys studying the game. He enjoys, finding the ins and outs of how he can improve and get better. So, a lot of it's going to come on to the shoulders of Alvin Gentry, their coach, who has been with their team for several years now, made a playoff run or a playoff appearance a couple of years back. So little experience there. So he's got that to kind of fall back on, a head coach who knows what he's doing by all accounts. And there's some veterans on that team as well. So I think it'll all kind of come together. And they're going to make a push here for this playoffs, and it's going to be on the shoulders of the first overall pick. And I think he's going to make a legitimate discussion towards the end of the year of who should win the MVP or the Rookie of the Year. But, who knows? It might not be a discussion just because he hasn't played very many games, but it's going to be fun to watch and interesting. I love watching the young guys just come in and ball out. So that's what I'm going to be looking for, right away, and it's going to be interesting to see how everything develops going on the rest of the season too. So
for sure, he's a lightning rod for attention. So all eyes are going to be on that game here at 9:30, 25 minutes away.
And hopefully that juices up the rest of the team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
gets them going and shows them like, yeah, we got a chance. And JJ Redick doesn't want to miss the playoffs for the first time in his career. So
holy fuck,
yeah,
that's legit.
JJ Redick has never missed the playoffs in his career.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So we talked Rookie of the Year. Who, now that we're at the halfway point, pretty much, who are you looking at for MVP leaders?
So, we haven't talked too much NBA, obviously, on the podcast yet. As we mentioned, we're going to get into that a lot more once the NFL season wraps up here in a week or two. So preseason, right when the beginning of the year started, I did a podcast when you were out. I did a little solo edition where I looked ahead to the NBA season, and if memory serves, I picked Giannis to win his second MVP, going back to back this year, win his MVP. So he's definitely going to have to be the favorite at this point. But is your question who I think, or who should, or what do you think the question is?
Who you think? Just if you were giving it up today.
Oh, if I was giving it up today, probably got to go to Giannis. He's just put up the stats, and they have lost 6 entire games this entire season. So, that puts him over the edge as well. And, they're the best team in the NBA, and he is the clear head and shoulders best player on that team. You look at guys like James Harden, LeBron James. Giannis is the gap between the best player on the Bucks, between Giannis and probably Middleton, is a bigger gap than James Harden and Russ Westbrook, or LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So the fact that that's the case, and they've lost only 6 games all season, and he's putting up fucking 30 a game and 13 rebounds a game, and 6 assists a game.
No, he's doing it all.
And a block a game. Like, he's just fucking dominating, bro.
Yeah.
dominating. Unless he's playing the Sixers, and I bet money on the Bucks, and they get fucking smoked. But yeah, it's got to be Giannis. And yeah, well, I guess before we kind of do that prediction, I was going to say, what do you think about right now?
Right now, it's got to be Giannis for the points you just mentioned. But some other interesting names. Obviously, you could throw out LeBron every single season because they have the best record in the West currently right now. Kawhi Leonard is another guy you could always throw out there for the Clippers. They're 31-13. And, Kawhi is another well-rounded player. I want to point out second-year player Trae Young, who is absolutely balling. The only problem is the Atlanta Hawks suck ass.
Are they the worst team in the NBA still?
They're definitely the worst in the East. It might be the entire NBA.
Pretty sure the worst team in the NBA.
Yeah, they are.
The other day
sure.
they were the last when I looked. Yeah, they stink. But
yeah.
Yeah, okay. They booty. Yeah, dude, he is going to be a superstar and is kind of asserting himself as such already, kind of like you mentioned. 29 points a game on that team. I guess on that team, who else they got? But that's still significant.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially, like I said, from a second-year guy, I'm very impressed with what we've seen from him for sure.
And then, obviously, Luka Doncic with the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, man.
Is another one that, honestly, you can make the argument that he would be next in line after Giannis if you were putting the votes together.
Saw the man almost get a trip dub live a couple weeks ago. I think
he's almost averaging a trip dub,
which is insane. And he's fucking 20 years old. It's just ridiculous. Like
he's awesome.
Fucking Mavericks and bastards.
He's awesome.
Why can't we get lucky and move on from a great to another great? We get horrible, get LeBron James, we become great. He leaves, we become horrible again. LeBron comes back, we're great again. He leaves, and we suck again.
Yeah.
Why can't we get at least one great guy? But, dude, Luka, that motherfucker is good. And the fact, like I said, the fact that the Mavericks get to go from Dirk to another, guy who's going to be on their team for the next 20-plus years just putting up buckets is some bullshit. But, yeah, like you said, he's probably easily the second guy in line for that MVP. His stat line of 29 points, 9.7 boards, and 9 assists, plus a steal a game. Like, dude is 20 years old, almost averaging a season triple-double on a team that's pretty good. Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
I'm very impressed with what we've seen from him. He just does everything good. But like you said, you cannot sleep on a man like LeBron James. And also, Luka is a lot bigger than I thought. I thought he was. Seeing him live, it's like, dude is bulkier than he looks a lot of times, I think. But, yeah, so LeBron James is definitely in the conversation as well. And I think if he continues the ball, he won't win the MVP because he's LeBron James. Plenty of seasons in recent memory, especially when he was with Cleveland, putting up MVP stats on championship teams and not winning the MVP. That's just how it goes for LeBron. It's like it's just LeBron. He's just doing LeBron things. We're going to overlook that because he's LeBron James. If it was anybody else in the league, they'd be getting handed MVPs for days. But because it's LeBron, nobody wants to give him the love in that respect. But, definitely probably Giannis and Luka are number 1 and number 2. And I think it's going to be Giannis only because I think it's shown in recent history that the best team, their best player who's in the conversation, gets the MVP more often than not.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to happen again. He is definitely deserving, though. So that's fair. And he's probably going to win it again.
If I were to choose to build my team around either player, there's probably not a wrong option, but I'm going to choose Giannis if you give me the choice. So
me too.
Hence MVP as it stands today.
Yeah, and that was a comment that I always kind of made. Like, the next best player in the NBA, who is that going to be? Like, it's always been LeBron James for the last, 15 years.
Yeah.
How many years has he been in the league? Maybe not his rookie year. He wasn't better than Kobe, maybe. But every year since, and you probably make an argument for his rookie year.
Yeah, fuck Kobe.
Dude, Kobe's legit.
No, he's good.
No, but so 15 years in a row, he's been the best player in the league. And honestly, he's, in my opinion, still the best player in the league, LeBron James. But I've always said the next best player in the league. Everybody's talking about, oh, KD's the second best player in the league. And I was like, yeah, and he's never going to be the best player in the league in his entire career. And that's shaping up pretty much to be true. Obviously, injuries are having a little bit to play with that, but he was never the best player in the league caliber, in my opinion. And I always said Giannis will be the next greatest player in the league. After it's no longer LeBron, is going to be Giannis. And the argument could be had over the last couple seasons that Giannis is now the best player in the league. Won the MVP last year. Probably going to win it again.
What
this
about
year.
Kawhi Leonard?
That's another
Giannis.
That's another very legitimate argument.
I think it's close. I don't know who I'd pick.
That's certainly an argument that a lot of people would make. And it's fair, dude. That's definitely fair, especially the last couple of seasons. Won this championship, is the best defender in the league, which you can't put stats on for the most part. And that's overlooked a lot of times when you talk about best players in the league. So Kawhi, Giannis, maybe Luka in a year or so. Like, who fucking knows? It's, in my opinion, it's LeBron James right now. But I always said it'll be Giannis. But like you said, there's some guys who are making it a little bit more of a conversation. Certainly, but like you said, if you're starting a franchise right now, who do you take? Like, if it's pretty obvious. Like, if the NFL, every single player was a free agent, the first team would pick Pat Mahomes, and it would not even be a conversation.
It'd be unanimous.
But in the NBA, be a couple guys people would be thinking twice about.
Yeah.
But no, if it's me, I'm picking Giannis.
It's an interesting conversation. When you do that, you have to factor age. So if you throw age out of it, I'm going LeBron James, of course. Well, Kawhi. But when you factor in age to actually build your franchise around, it's clearly Giannis now.
Well, yeah, I don't know, man. Who gives you a better? I mean, okay, this year, yeah, I'm picking LeBron James.
Yeah,
like if it started preseason, who's your number one pick? Yeah, I'm picking LeBron James.
Yeah,
but like you said, as an organization,
from that
LeBron might retire in 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With age, not as much of a factor.
Yeah.
It's
for
just
one
crazy
season,
that like you're still going LeBron at this point.
He's the best, man. He's the best player in the league still to this day, which is insane. He's still not going to win the MVP, and it's deserving to go to Luka or Giannis. And right now, my money is going to be on Giannis, like I said, because their team is going to have the number one seed, and they're going to have, like, who knows, 10, 12 losses this year probably. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Like, second half of the season, I'm looking forward to really diving more into the NBA on this podcast and just watching in general. Watched a decent amount of NBA, when I've had a chance here or there. It's going to be an interesting shape up how these conferences shape out, particularly in the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that I think have a legit shot, especially in the East. Obviously, the Bucks are going to lead the way in that conversation, but the Celtics, the Heat have kind of surprised a lot of people. The Raptors are kind of still in there, but I don't really have any faith in them. It's still the Raptors. In the West, the Clippers, in my opinion, are going to blow through the playoffs for the most part until they get to the conference championship, probably against the Lakers, depending on how the seeding shapes up. But the Lakers and the Clippers, I think, are, I don't know. For whatever reason, I think they have the advantage over teams like the Jazz and the Nuggets, who are probably up there in the conversation for who's going to get, some of those top seeds. But it's going to be, the East is going to be very interesting. But yeah, it's going to be fun to kind of start breaking that down on the podcast and getting into that.
Absolutely, man. I'm definitely going to start paying more attention to NBA now that football is winding down a little bit. I've been following college basketball somewhat closely. I've always remained a fan of college basketball. Some people shit on that sport, and I can understand that too.
Yeah, I'm one of that doesn't really pay much attention
to
it.
No, I get it. I just, the college game in general with the whole recruiting aspect and player development, I don't know. I've just always been drawn to that. So still pay attention to, and the fact that Michigan football sucks ass and Michigan basketball has been pretty damn good in my lifetime. So that's a factor as well. But I love the NBA as well. Growing up watching LeBron James in a Cavs jersey just immediately pulled me in that direction to enjoy basketball. Yeah. So I like the NBA. I like watching the sports played at their highest level. And there are some interesting teams and storylines that you kind of already pointed out, especially with the playoff picture going to be taking shape in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this Clippers versus Lakers, who's going to win the West conversation. The Clippers have lost some games that they probably shouldn't have and had their ups and downs a little bit early on in the season. But they'll get their shit together. They have easily the best bench in the league, in my opinion, and have, like you mentioned, maybe the best player in the league in Kawhi. Oh, yeah, Paul George. I'll throw him in there, too, who was injured early in the season. Like, they're stacked.
They're stacked.
Straight stacked. And when you pair that with the best bench in the league, sets up pretty good. Lou Williams still putting up numbers, bro. He's going to win a sixth man of the year again. They're just stacked. But then, like I said, LeBron and AD as a combo is disgusting on his own right as well. So it's going to be cool. Hopefully they get number 1 and number 2 so they can match up in that conference championship and don't somehow run into each other before. But it's kind of hard to see how that could be possible. But it's going to be interesting. Looking forward to that. Looking forward next week. Check it out. We're going to be breaking down this Super Bowl. Really looking forward to that game. Like I said, favorite game, one of the favorite days of the year. Super Bowl Sunday coming up. So until we talk to you next week, Jeff, been a pleasure, brother.
As always.
Peace.